Hey and welcome. I'm Hammeh, and in this latest Overwatch Tours video we're taking you on a journey through the lore, map interactions and easter eggs of Hanamura. One of Overwatch's assault maps, Hanamura holds a significance in the Overwatch story through being the ancestral home of Hanzo, Genji and the Shimada Clan. We'll run you through Hanzo and Genji's deep bond with Hanamura, the map's lore, interactions and cool easter eggs and details. Firstly, let's go through Hanamura's lore. Nestled in the midst of several neighbouring cities, Hanamura is a well-preserved village of unassuming shops and streets. Known as the Flower Village in Japanese, today it's mostly known for its idyllic cherry blossom festival held every spring that's promoted as tourism throughout the world. Those who know its history, though, are aware that the tranquil surroundings hide a much darker past. Hanamura is the ancestral home of a centuries-old family and ninja clan, the Shimada. From their base of power, this clan of assassins grew their power over the years, enabling them to build a vast criminal empire that profited from lucrative trade in arms, illegal substances, and business fronts. Leadership was passed on generation after generation, the eldest son being bound by duty to succeed his father and run the Shimada Empire as clan master. Other children were seemingly also expected to work in the family business. Regardless of their age or status, Shimada children were seemingly trained in various ninja and fighting arts, including martial arts, swordplay, and bowmanship. As far as we know, these traditions continued up until the dismantling of the clan during Overwatch's 2 decades of peace brought to the world after the first Omnic crisis. Close to the present day, as the Shimada's criminal power grew, it had not gone unnoticed. As Overwatch asserted itself as a global peacekeeping force and grew in size and influence, it also took action against both terrorist and criminal groups. Talon, the notorious terrorist group, had a specific Overwatch member, Gerard Lacroix, dedicated to spearheading operations against them, and presumably the Shimada clan became seen as a similar level of threat. The catalyst for the downfall of the Shimadas seemed to have been the death of the most recent clan master, who had 2 sons that we know of, Hanzo and Genji. His death is described as untimely in Genji's biography, so speculatively that sounds a little out of the blue. Whether from Overwatch intervention, war between criminal families, or many other sources of course, there are plenty of ways for a crime family leader to die unexpectedly. This event triggered the elders of the clan to ask the new master, eldest son Hanzo, to straighten out his wayward younger brother so that he too might help rule the Shimada Empire. Although perhaps once very close, as this photo of Genji's in Nepal might suggest, the 2 brothers had taken very different paths in the years before their father's death. Hanzo had been trained from a young age. Getting ready for his birthright, he displayed a natural aptitude for leadership and an innate understanding of strategy and tactics, as well as being a prodigy in many martial arts and fighting disciplines. Genji, as the youngest son, did not have this pressure. He lived a life of luxury and privilege, spending a lot of time apparently in Hanamura's 16-bit hero arcade. He had little interest in the family's illegal businesses. He did excel and enjoy his ninja training, but spent most of his time pursuing a playboy lifestyle. This wasn't corrected by his late father. Many within the clan actually considered Genji to be a liability, and they resented his father for coddling and protecting him. Maybe a bit of a daddy's favourite. Hanzo was enraged at Genji's refusal of his requests to get more involved in the family, and the tension between the brothers built, climaxing in a violent confrontation that left Genji on the verge of dying. Hanzo actually believed he'd killed his brother this day. The act broke his heart and drove him to reject his father and family's legacy, abandoning the Shimada clan and all that he'd worked so hard towards attaining. Although Genji lay on the verge of death, he was rescued by Overwatch and offered a deal. To help Overwatch and his body would be rebuilt. He would go on to dismantle his family's criminal empire, wander the world to try and find peace with himself in his new cyborg form, and meeting a certain Omnic monk along the way. But we'll save those stories for another time. Every year, Hanzo returns to Hanamura to meditate at what may well be the site of what he believed to be his brother's death. In the events of the animated short Dragons, the 2 brothers meet once again, with Hanzo discovering that Genji still lives, and Genji forgiving his brother, but saying that there is still an opportunity for his redemption. The world is changing, and Hanzo must pick a side. After that dramatic moment, the imposing compound of the Shimada family lies empty. Whether this peace will remain or whether it will be broken once more is anybody's guess. If you'd like to see more hero lore and interactions from both of the brothers, check out the links to their hero lore, voice lines and interactions video I've done in the descriptions below. Okay, on to Hanamura's hero interactions. Hanzo, of course, being the master of the Shimada clan for a short period of time, has a lot of feelings and thoughts when he spawns on Hanamura.
This is the home of the Shimada Clan. My home.
He clearly wants to have his birthright back, and still sees himself as being the master of the Shimadas.
The master of the Shimada Clan has returned. I will take back what is mine by birthright.
Given that he left Hanamura in disgrace and decided to reject his legacy though, he clearly has mixed emotions on returning.
All of this was to be mine. This was once my home. No longer. My enemies fall like cherry blossoms.
Genji has quite a few fond memories of Hanamura still, in spite of his near-death experience. He does have some good memories about the arcade.
I passed many an hour of my misspent youth here.
And interestingly, when he makes this comment about ramen, I wonder exactly how much taste and how much eating Genji can actually do in his cyborg form.
Ramen! It's just not the same anymore.
Genji's spiritual guru and perhaps master Zenyatta in many ways is also interested in his students' past, and says so to Genji when they spawn on the map.
So this is where you grew up? You must show me around.
D.Va's had a poster here. We know that she's come here for some kind of event, and she loves seeing things in the arcade, with a particular nod to Blizzard games.
Blizzard games? That's so old school. Oh.
And I'm pretty sure that D.Va may have set a few good scores when she came through.
No one's beating my high scores.
There are so many cool Easter eggs on Hanamura, as well as cultural references, Japanese translations to take a look at, references to old Blizzard games, hidden sound effects, and a bunch more. Firstly, some of the Japanese on Hanamura. Now, I've had a look at this from several sources, which I'll cite at the end, so full credit to the guys who've tried to translate these. In the main defensive spawn, apparently this scroll reads Ryutu Dabi, or literally dragon head or snake tail. That's probably an attempt to perhaps join up with the motif of the dragons eating each other that we see throughout the animated short Dragons and also throughout the level, as well as being the symbol of the Shimada Clan. Apparently the order that these 4 kanji characters are in is more of an idiomatic expression. Apparently this one actually means anticlimax, which maybe isn't the meaning that Blizzard were going for. What do you think? In a couple of places on the map, there's also this scroll, which means fall 7 times and stand up 8 in a Japanese proverb. Overwatch players could certainly empathise with that in terms of respawns, and maybe Genji and Hanzo too perhaps, with the adversity that they've had to overcome in their lives. There's a really interesting piece of graffiti near the arcade attacking spawn that this Izumi bot is trying to clean off. And Izumi, by the way, are a company that are on the stock exchange ticker in Numbani. Really love the link detail there from Blizzard, Izumi Electronics. The graffiti here actually says something like, "The rending dragon will eat the world," and it's interesting that the bot's trying to clean it off. Although there's a lot of other graffiti around to clean off, that does sound slightly sympathetic towards the Shimadas. Finally, there's this piece of graffiti, which you can very easily miss if you're running from the attacking spawn on Hanamura. Over on the wall to the right, out of the arcade, you can see this piece which says, "Hanzo is watching from the shadows." Now I find that really interesting. Is it perhaps Shimada sympathisers writing this? Maybe someone who'd like to see the clan come back? Loyalists or similar? There's a nice little subplot there with that bit of graffiti. Big thanks to yomimaru.com, I believe that's the site of Martin Varga. He's done a couple of articles on the Japanese of Overwatch and trying to translate Hanamura. Do go and have a look, I've linked them in the description below. Finally, the carp statue here has another little piece of Japanese on. Apparently it's a haiku that says, "Splashing and full of life, the carps dance." Big shout out to Alaskan Wolf on Reddit who looked into that one along with some other people. I've linked the thread in the description below. There's also perhaps an interesting koi carp tie here as well. There is a Chinese story of a school of koi swimming upstream in a river in China. They gained strength as they fought against the current, they tried to jump up a waterfall and refused to give up. After 100 years of jumping, one koi actually got to the top of the waterfall and the gods recognised it for its perseverance, turning it into a golden dragon, the image of power and strength. So maybe a little bit of a Shimada dragon tie to the koi statue there as well. The arcade within the modern district of Hanamura also serves as a spawn point for the attack. Of course, the D.Va poster hanging in the lobby was present in closed beta phase of Overwatch even before she was formally introduced to the game. 16-Bit Hero is the name of the arcade. It's the game that D.Va says to McCree in a recent interaction was responsible for her learning to aim so well. All around the Hanamura arcade there are a number of really cool games and references. Of course there's Fighters of the Storm, clearly an homage to Heroes of the Storm. This game shows Reyna from StarCraft and Tyrael of Diablo fame facing each other in combat, in a Street Fighter style. Fighters of the Storm 2, presumably the sequel, has Garrosh Hellscream facing off against Sarah Kerrigan. Garrosh, of course, from World of Warcraft and the Warcraft universe, and Kerrigan, the ghost known as both the heroine and anti-hero of StarCraft respectively. Garrosh hasn't been introduced into Heroes of the Storm yet, leading some people to wonder if he might in future. Onto Vivi's adventure, this small cave girl could be a reference to several SNES-style and 8-bit style platforming games. The Lost Vikings 6, even though it looks like a bullet hell type shooter style game, it's a little bit of a nod to Blizzard's original The Lost Vikings, which you can actually download for free and play from Blizzard still. Super Siege Mode 3, well, this game seems to have a Reyna or a Marine from StarCraft, a Siege Tank from StarCraft, perhaps Sergeant Hammeh from Heroes of the Storm, and if you look closely there's also a Vulture Bike flying through as well, another Terran ground unit that would lay mines in the StarCraft RTS games. Moving over to Holoblocks, well, this looks to me like Breakout or any number of games that are paddle and ball trying to hit the balls down from the top of the screen. Finally, there's Soulstone Demon Slayer, potentially a reference to Warcraft Soulstones. It feels like Diablo in nature to me. All around the walls of the Hanamura arcade, as well as the Art of Diva, there's several cool posters and pieces of artwork. I've speculated in the past in my old, and sorry the production quality was a little iffy back then, Top 5 Heroes video. Have a look at it for this character that, hey, in my headcanon, I'd love to call Hawk. In the middle of the modern district of Hanamura, there's also a noodle shop. The statue above the shop is a Murloc in a spaceship, and if you shoot it, you might hear this very familiar sound from Warcraft and World of Warcraft. Okay, finally time for a little bit of Hanamura's story speculation. There's several cool things and questions that this map and its area and the Shimada Clan story raises. Firstly, what do you think the reason for the Clan Master's unexpected death might have been? In Genji's bio, it's stated that Genji and Hanzo's father died unexpectedly. As I said before, there's a lot of ways that a criminal family head could sadly get killed unexpectedly, but I wonder if this was to do with Overwatch, to do with gang war, or maybe to do with something else entirely. It does sound as though there was a little bit of friction within the Shimada clan, as some clan elders apparently weren't happy at the way that Genji was coddled and protected by his father. Perhaps there was some kind of internal strife. Who knows? Another question that Hanamura's level asks is what happened on that fateful day between Hanzo and Genji when Hanzo left Genji seemingly for dead. If we look at the point B cap point, the bloodied wall scroll along with the sword, possibly Hanzo's sword, as far as we know. At BlizzCon 2015 in the Overwatch panel, it was mentioned that Hanzo is a master swordsman, probably even better than Genji, but after delivering that final blow to his brother, he put down the sword for good and he picks up the bow. Now, in a sense of Chris Metzen style enthusiasm, who knows whether this is still canon or whether it's sort of a backstory or an idea behind it, but I really like that idea, and maybe this sword is Hanzo's. What do you think? What's happened to the Shimada clan now after they were dismantled by Overwatch? Are there still clan elders out there, or anybody else? And finally, and this is a little bit of a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, in the Sombra conspiracy image when Sombra is trying to work out how the world works that I've covered in a separate video below, we can see in the Shimada section of it, there is an unknown additional icon next to Genji. Is this Hanzo? Is this another Shimada clan member, or is it their dead father? It would be really interesting if there were other Shimada siblings to Hanzo and Genji, but there's nothing proving that right now. Headcanon away. Thanks very much for tuning in to this Overwatch lore tour where we've looked at the map lore, stories, Easter eggs and much more behind Hanamura. If you like this video, please do throw a like, comment below with what you think and any thoughts and theories you have, and subscribe to see more of this kind of thing on both Overwatch maps and Overwatch lore in general. Big thanks to my supporters on Patreon who make these videos possible. If you'd like to see how you could support this kind of content and get involved in the making of these videos, do have a look at the link here. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.